Dear colleagues, the topic of our current press briefing is as follows. Index of publicity in 2016. Is there progress in the work of local councils? We have Oleksandr Neberykut, coordinator of the campaign on publicity index measuring, and Andriy Savchuk, publicity coordinator measurement index in Ukraine. Good afternoon, dear friends. This is the third year in a row when we are carrying out the publicity index of the local councils. Actually, what do we measure? We measure not just access to information about activities of local council, but also we measure the accessibility of the premises of the municipal councils, local councils, the informative level of the websites, and we have more than 20 different indicators which we sum up and then in line with some formula produce the average index. Till the last year, both Luhansk and Donetsk Oblast councils were participants of our index, but since last year we have now this opportunity, and from the 2015 we are not doing this, and also in Simferopol we do not do this. I am making this remark because from the very beginning the intention was to cover the entire territory of Ukraine, but now we have to exclude these territories. Today I will describe the shift in situation, how it changed against the last year data, and I would like to compare the first year when just 10 cities were measured, the second year and the third year data. So we measure general publicity, then a publicity of the head of local council or city mayor, that publicity of executive bodies and the local MPs. We have four colored scale for measures. Pink or orange color shows the level of publicity lower than 40%. Yellow color shows a low level of publicity up to 60%, then light green sufficient level of publicity up to 80%, and the high level of publicity up to 100%. During the last years, we saw no cities which would satisfy the dark green color. As of 2016, the situation improved slightly against the indicators from previous 2 years. In this slide, we clearly see the leaders in our publicity index, which is Lutsk, then this Ivano-Frankivsk, Vinnytsia, Kropivnitsky, Chernivtsi, and Lviv. At the bottom of these columns, you see the cities with lowest level of publicity, which are Dnipro, Zaporizhzhia, Cherkasy, and Uzhhorod. each year we observe similar situation when the publicity of city mayor, local MPs are high, then the executive body's publicity are high. So they usually go hand in hand. And the cities having more than 70% of publicity were Ivano-Frankivsk and Lutsk. This is the situation as of today, and when we look at the last 3 years, we observe definite progress, while in 2015 we had the average publicity level at the figure of 48%. Now the average level is at 54% approximately. Why this is going on? I think one of the factors which contribute is improvement of legislation, which requires more publicity, open data requirements, better access to information, obligations to publish budgetary information, urban construction information, etc. Also, there are higher requirements to the MPs, local MPs, and this allows the local bodies to improve their publicity of the operation. On the other hand, they are not moving rapidly enough. On the other hand, there is obviously lack of political will. This could be clearly seen from those cities when they have this political will, when they have better policy in terms of access to information. They comply with the legislation more eagerly. Also, what is noticeable that during the last 3 years, the leaders of those ratings, they remain almost the same. So Lutsk, Ivano-Frankivsk, even Vinnytsia, they traditionally remain the leaders in our rating, while Lutsk gained plus 23%, while Vinnytsia, after Groisman left the mayor's position, remains at approximately the same level without considerable improvement. The outsiders with a relatively level of publicity remained Dnipro, Zaporizhia, Cherkasy and Uzhhorod, and while Cherkasy gradually improved their performance by 10% during the last year, then Dnipro and Uzhhorod demonstrate some regress.
Actually, there is a very small font here regarding cities, but Lutsk demonstrated the best progress of late, but they did not occupy the high positions 3 years ago. In Vinnytsia, actually, which remains at the same level, doesn't show any progress. If this tendency prevails, the same city of Lviv, which has 12% increment or improvement of the progress, Lviv can become the leader and be ahead of today's leaders. And what we were interested mostly in whether this picture is going to change at the local elections, because the measurements we carried out were actually focused on the same officials or the candidates for different positions. Those authorities who were elected in those days, we tried to take measurements of them. In 2015, there were several elections, and some councils actually changed their composition for 15 or more percent, and it was interesting to us to see whether it had some impact on the publicity index in the local governance bodies. I would like to immediately say that the result is rather positive than negative, but there are some specifics about that. And the changes which we traced, about 7% in the indicators. So the self-governed bodies which were elected last year, and so they show 3% increases compared to the previous composition. But very interesting is about each subject separately, how they demonstrate their publicity level. And here we can see that, against this background, the biggest increment is demonstrated by the MPs, and their publicity index increased by 8% on the average. And actually, the expectation that the new MP core will come to the fore, and we expected a lot of these, and they declared they were going to be more public. Those expectations have been justified. And actually, the lowest level, most problematic level among the MPs, but at the same time, maybe over the last year, there is some progress. Speaking about the mayors which are elected positions, we can see also small progress or increase about 4% in publicity index as compared to the previous year after the election campaign. Speaking about the executive bodies officials, we can see very interesting picture. There is some regress, obvious, and this can be accounted for because there are some more legislative requirements. First of all, they were dealing with the executive bodies, not always the executive agencies can, from professional level, from the point of view of the political will, they not always responded to the requirements, and they were talking about the publication of open data. So that's why we have this kind of regression. And very briefly about the problems we revealed. The biggest problem remains to be the issue of reporting of the officials and MPs or deputies of the local councils. There are some cases when the mayors actually report during the open meetings, but usually they're talking about the replacement of those reports by some kind of the close, let's say, circle of those who are invited, and they have no meetings with the public at large, or they call the report some kind of the let's say, information given to the mass media, to the TV, whatever, which doesn't provide for the feedback or communication. This kind of manipulation, we also record that as the lack of the public reporting. Again, we are talking about the urban situation, but traditionally the executive bodies do not report or report not on a regular basis. In some cities they used to report and they stop that, then resume it again. So the picture is not stable here. And for MPs, there is a kind of in a different picture with some, let's say, they demonstrate good practices. They actually take care of the regular reporting. But again, you can take the information from our reports, which is well known in the localities. But on the whole, the deputy corps or the MP corps, they do not report about their activities, and we do not have that information. We are talking about the institution of the electorate, which exists according to the law. They have to actually send the inquiry to their deputies. Deputies have to report back, etc., etc. This practice actually is absent altogether. The reports about the deputy commissions, which is also an element, an important element, so we're informing the public at large. Those reports are not available either. The issue of the deputy funds, when the deputies, let's say, allocate some money for the needs and requirements of the electorate, the information about those funds remains to be closed, or hidden. And actually, there is no understanding what kind of money is allocated and to whom. And we do not have no report on this. Another issue which is problematic is communal and the land resources became problematic when there was they came up with the requirement to publish the data regarding the real estate or property and land resources. And it turns out that the problem lies not only in the fact that they do not publish those data in no open format, but they do not have this available altogether. We are talking about the reports of the utilities company or the communal companies, about the schemes of the allocation of the temporary facilities, like small shops, whatever, the plots of land which are allotted for the construction purposes of town building, whatever. We don't have those data as well. The third problem associated with the participation or interaction between the officials and deputies with the public at large, we can say that those institutions do not work. No, we are not talking about the MPs or the mayors or whoever else. The local residents do not participate actively in that, but because of the attitude of the MPs and the officials to the public involvement institutions, so there is no activity among them again, because there is no high quality information regarding the preparation of the public hearings and the factual data of those hearings. Deputies not attend to those hearings, which could or is planned to be the communication platforms. If we are talking about some kind of the council under the mayor's office, or let's say advisory, let's say bodies, which would take care of the issues of education, social issues, healthcare, culture, some budget-related issues, and when they would communicate with the people or the competent experts, they did not establish such structures either. So we are talking about the creation of the Center for Providing Administrative Services and the interaction of public at large, the level of obtaining those services. There is some progress. But if we are talking about the possibility of public at large to influence the policy, there are no such opportunities. The public hearings are not there. Some advisory bodies do not operate. They are either faked or inefficient. If you would like to attend some kind of professional discussion meetings or deputy commissions or the executive committee meetings, the access is very limited or restricted. Summing up, we can say that those are the three key issues because of which we cannot reach the level of the publicity index level at least 70 to 90%. The majority of the cities demonstrate this kind of unsatisfactory level. Speaking about recommendation, were specific based on our measurement and assessment, and we sum up those indexes. We are talking about the format and regular nature of the reporting or the publishing of the information and the list of this information in the open data format and content of that information. The third recommendation deals with the improvement of the quality of interaction using different tools and instruments. And I should know that, of course, this is very positive when we have today a kind of adjustment, different way to formats of interaction of the authorities with the public at large, e-petitions or whatever else, but there is another form of interaction between authority and the public at large, and they have kind of limited audience because they usually use the internet, with the discrimination of those who do not have access to the internet network because of their incompetence or, let's say, whatever other reasons could be, and they actually kind of sever them off. Cut them off. Now those are positives, and there are some negative issues. I'm not going to talk about that in detail. There is some progress in, if we are talking about the publishing of the documents, the draft decisions, etc., the amount of those documents, archives, and the possibility to search for those documents, budgetary information, and visualization of that information appears to be there. And again, if we're talking about the content of that also on the improved side of that and more transparency, a lot of positive things, but we have to focus about on the negative issues and to improve or to correct the situation and take decisions in order to do that. This is a general picture, And before I turn the mic to my colleague, I would like to thank all the participants in the measurement campaign. We are talking about more than 30 people in different cities who, over the last several months, were taking care of those measurements. They actually were sending out the inquiries and attended different meetings. Andriy is one of those who worked in Kyiv. He's going to talk about the publicity indices related to the city of Kyiv.
Thank you, Alexander. I would like to speak about Kyiv. Kyiv takes the third position in our rating, and this is this stable position for the third year in a row. But against the last year, the publicity in Kyiv dropped 2%, which is not so much. Also, I would like to mention that considerable raise in publicity against 2014 was related to May elections 2014, when after which the local self-government bodies started to work more efficiently. Probably you know that the Kyiv self-government publicity is governed by the law on the capital of the country, and Vitaly Klitschko has broader area of responsibilities, also in terms of publicity, and his publicity as a head of the executive body and as a head of the city, as city mayor, manifests itself differently. When we look at the website of Kyiv city, we see less information than at the website of Kyiv city state administration. The level of publicity of the city mayor dropped 50% and now is at the level of 7%. So this reflects that some problem exists. Kyiv is a very big city, and the Kyiv City Council, the Kyiv city mayor is sometimes unable to open the public reception offices and cannot have this official hours for visitors, the last of which took place back in February last year. Also, we should pay attention at the periodicity and quality of reporting. While the first reporting of the city mayor took place 100 days after first 100 days in the office, the next reporting period covered almost 18 months. Also, I would like to characterize positively the website of Kyiv mayor, but at the same time, reporting in Kyiv is not sufficiently regular. About executive bodies in Kyiv, here again we observe some drop in publicity up to 3%. The Council of Ministers resolution number 835 sets standards for open data about municipal bodies, about municipal properties, and carriers, municipal carriers. About executive bodies in Kyiv. There are several departments, units and directorates which are function separately in Kyiv. They do not have any unified standards for reporting. But nevertheless, we observe positive trend that those directorates and municipal units report and are accountable via different public hearings, etc. Also, Kyiv is in better position against other cities because it can afford the municipal hotline number 1551. Also, it can afford an interactive map of repairings and overhauls in the city. Also, Kyiv can use such an instrument as Prozora platform. So we believe that in the future years we will observe some growth in publicity of Kyiv. As for Kyiv MPs, they are less public than executive bodies in the city and than a city mayor. In Kyiv, we have 120 MPs, and sometimes it's not easy to track back their personal reporting, but the publicity of MPs is now at the level of 56% due to publication of the reports by big group of MPs, more than 20% additionally. Also, this is due to the new practice of reporting of party faction activities in the city council. Some city council factions organized public hearings after first year of their work and publicly presented what they have done for the past period. Also, there are questions about the use of money from so-called MPs fund or the issues about biographies, MPs biographies. So MPs provide insufficient personal information for public access, which raises questions. Also about some positive moments. The new rules for public hearings were developed, and during this year, more than 120 public hearings were initiated by Kyiv city MPs. At the same time, Kyivites have no free access to the Kyiv City Council sessions. And some months ago, an assistant to an MP had voted for this MP in the session room, raised a scandal. Now the municipal MPs are drafting new rule of procedure about more strict access to the session room. These were the major findings about Kyiv city, and more detail you can see on our official website. Thank you for your attention. All those percentages are just a very brief review of general picture. I would like to refer to more detailed data upon which we based our survey. We are planning to have a road show with the presentations of our findings and explain about each parameter which contributed to general index. I would like to refer to our www.publicityindex.org website, and I'm ready to answer your questions about parameters of which are measured. Also, I encourage you to approach to our regional coordinators. Measuring, it's only part of our work. The bigger focus of our work is focused on dissemination, on disseminating the results of our measurings, on dissemination of best practices revealed in course of measuring, and to tackle the worst practices. Thank you very much. I encourage you to visit our website. Thank you.